For most of us, Harry Truman is just a name in a history book, a newsreel image. It has been a lifetime since he left the White House and went home. He was the last president to exit humbly. He departed with no presidential pension, no Secret Service protection, no aids. He took but one favor, this wrought iron fence around his home in Independence, Missouri, constructed not so much for security, but to keep out the curious.
Harry said he learned his lesson in World War I. The French fought for country, the British for the high seas, Americans for souvenirs. That fence cost the taxpayers $5,400. Last year, the tab for our 3 former living presidents exceeded $28 million. Harry Truman was not an imperial man. Had you been a friend, he probably would have met you right here at the front door. The smell of roast beef coming from the kitchen. And Bess would set out the iced tea.
That's Truman's only child, Margaret. What strikes you about this home is the absence of presidential mementos. Take the Truman's pictures off the walls, it could belong to anyone. Nothing in Harry Truman's life had led him to believe he would be president. His family never sought power, nor developed presidents. He had no lifelong military leadership. He was a private man who stepped into the office when Franklin Roosevelt died. He ruled over 2 hot wars and 1 cold, dropped the first atomic bomb, saved Berlin, rebuilt Europe, and opened the United Nations. He won a 2nd term no one said he could, desegregated the army, sacked 1 popular general, and passed the president's job to another. He carried lines from the poet Tennyson tucked in his wallet. I dipped into the future far as the eye could see, saw the vision of the world and the wonder it could be.
The pleasure that the family took in each other's company was contagious. Mr. Truman liked to pick these god-awful ties to get a rise out of Bess and Margaret. When he was alone, he said, he simply had to pick the right one. And that was no fun at all.
He was, first and last, a family man. It helped him separate who he was from his role as president.
Once in the White House, when Bess forgot her favorite dress, Truman spent hours rummaging through the closet, apparently not considering that his time might be too valuable.
He wrote lengthy letters home, partly because he disliked the high cost of telephone calls. Yet when he did phone from the White House or the road, he often did so collect. Mr. Truman had money problems, even as president. When Bess wanted a new car, Harry told her to sell her old one and buy a bond. Then when we get out of this great wide jail, he said, we can get one. They did. There were no footmen and no finger bowls back home in Independence. Harry Truman thought that was grand. Mr. Truman always talked about the Republicans as if they were dining off the stolen family silver somewhere in Kansas. He was brought to power by Tom Pendergast, a big city boss, who the Republicans felt had a treasure map all his own. Harry was honest, but he did benefit from the association. Years later, facing down Soviet leader Joseph Stalin, Truman said, he's not so tough to live with. I've known Tom Pendergast. During the White House years, Bess Truman spent her summers at home in Independence. The separation was painful and poignant. Bess was at the window waving goodbye, he wrote. The old yard rabbit was looking at me, as were the neighborhood cats. Robins were on hand for a drink and a flutter in the bird bath. It would be a long, lonely walk to the White House. Harry Truman died on the day after Christmas, 1972. in his 89th year. At home, at last. For today, Bob Dotson, NBC News, Independence, Missouri.